Thank you very much for making a date. Welcome back to the marketplace. Now, the Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, is justifying the $4.5 million spent on the rollout of the mobile money interoperability project, which he says is within budgets of government. According to him, the aim of the current administration is to streamline all payment systems in the country without a burden to the citizenry. There were some reports that the previous administration had budgeted over $4 billion for the project. Delivering a keynote address at the launch of a private clearing platform known as PaySwitch in Accra, the Vice President said with the intervention of the interoperability system as well as other digital systems, government will be compelled to abolish payment of cash for transactions in the public sector.
Ghana is arguably the leading country right now in Africa in the area of mobile payments interoperability. As I said, we've overtaken Tanzania and Kenya and other countries in this direction. And thankfully, we did it within budget. I say so. I hope PaySwitch, you didn't spend 4.6 billion Ghana cedis on your development. I certainly hope you didn't. I mean, you've heard a lot of discussion this week about the cost of payment system, especially this interoperability switch. And it just, I mean, when I first became aware of this, it was a situation where 3 companies apparently bid for the right to provide payment system, right? The interoperability, payment system interoperability. One company bid 14 million Ghana cedis to provide that payment system interoperability. Another company, for the same scope of work, bid 5 million Ghana cedis. And yet a third company, for the same scope of work, bid 4.6 billion Ghana cedis. And guess who won? 4.6 billion Ghana cedis won that bid. And what are we trying to provide? Interoperability. And we have been able to do it for $4.5 million instead of the $1 billion. And we have become the leading country in interoperability in Ghana. So what other scope were you thinking about? I mean, what more do you want to do? If you've become the leading country as far as interoperability is concerned, what more scope are you going to provide?
Away from that, government says Ghanaians would soon start realizing the benefits of prudent economic management in their pockets. This is in response to criticisms that recent economic growth and stabilized cedi and the inflation rate has not resulted in reducing cost of living. But at a press conference yesterday, Deputy Information Minister Kwadwo Nkrumah said he disagrees with these arguments. He says the recent Eurobond results shows that trickling down effects would be felt soon by Ghanaians.
In recent months, we've been speaking about the improved macroeconomic conditions of our nation. And sometimes this improved status is dismissed with a claim that it is yet to reflect in the pockets of the average Ghanaian. But the recent sovereign bond issuance of the I beg your pardon, and the conditions associated with it are yet another example that Ghana is beginning to get dividends from the improved macroeconomic management of our economy. Colleagues, until recently, Ghana's economy, which showed worrying signs of distress, and you could find those signs of distress in our macro indicators, we could only raise funding at very high rates on the global market. And this was primarily because the risk premium associated with Ghanaian instruments was deemed very high. You'll recall that in 2015, government's 15-year bond was secured at 10.750%. The 6-year bond, which ought to have been cheaper, was also secured at 9.75%. But today, with the improvement in our debt sustainability situation, and you know that we have come down to 69.2 from an earlier 73.1. Today, with rebounding growth has gone up from about 3.7 to about 8.7 in the year gone by. Today, because of improvement in the revenue situation and a gradual reduction of our contingent liability risks, Ghana's new bonds are being rewarded with some of the lowest rates on the global capital markets currently for emerging markets. Our recent 10-year bond, as I'm sure you are aware, was secured at a rate of 7.62. And even the 30-year bond, which you would even expect to be significantly more expensive than the 15, which was at 10%, our 30-year bond was priced at 8.62. This means that we'll pay comparatively less interest and rather have fiscal space, more fiscal space in subsequent years to invest our money in the initiatives that will further increase our output and create jobs for our people. By successfully issuing a 30-year bond, Ghana's short-term debt demands continue to reduce, and this should mean government can continue to lower costs of borrowing on the domestic capital markets, and in so doing, not price out the private sector with high competing rates in 91-day, 182-day, and one-year papers.
Meanwhile, government is asking Parliament to ratify double taxation agreements as well as the prevention of fiscal evasion with respect to taxes on income and capital gains between Ghana and 4 other countries. The countries include the Kingdom of Morocco, the Republic of Mauritius, the Republic of Singapore, and the Czech Republic. Former Deputy Finance Minister Ato Forson, who is also the minority spokesperson, is however kicking against the decision. He thinks it will offer an opportunity for some offshore companies to avoid payment of taxes.
My concern obviously relates to the number of agreements this government intends to sign with the countries involved. Today we've been called upon to ratify up to 4 double tax agreements, but avoidance of double tax agreements in respect to income and capital gains. I think government will have to have a rethink about that. I'm not against double tax agreement with a country, but I'm also concerned that before you sign double tax agreement with any country, there's the need for us as a country to assess the level of investment, okay, in that country. We also need to assess how much indeed is going to cost us, and then also to find out whether Ghanaian businesses are also going to benefit from those countries. But from the countries that I'm seeing, today we've been called upon to approve one relating to Morocco, Czech Republic, Mauritius, and then Singapore. How many Ghanaian companies are actually going to benefit from Morocco and Czech Republic? In spite of that, if you take countries like Mauritius and then Singapore, we know that they are tax haven countries, okay? Mauritius in particular, tax haven countries. So my concern is it that some offshore entities are hiding behind the push, okay? Lobbying in such a way that they will come and invest in Ghana and to erode the tax base by using the fiscal, the double tax agreement, and to get away from paying taxes. So what we are saying is that in the coming days, we in the minority will be doing assessment on this matter. We think that there's the need for us to assess this matter because obviously it has caught our eyes, and for them to approve 4 DTAs, request Parliament to approve 4 DTAs, we have to look at it, because overall, since independent, how many DTAs do we have in place? I think it's about 9. So if we have 9 DTAs in place, how many successive governments? And then within a day, they are laying 4 more DTAs. We have to investigate that and come out.
Let's now take a look at the capital market, where former Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Dr. Edu Ananiankwi, says he backs moves to withdraw licenses of the 10 troubled investment firms. That is, if it's established that they failed to comply with industry laws. According to Dr. Ananiankwi, this action has become crucial to bring sanity into the industry.
Well, I think I saw the news item, particularly yesterday's graphic. I think they issued a public statement last Friday or so that 10 companies are going under investigation. They are investigating those companies for breaches of the law, and I think that is a positive thing to do. Anytime that you find out that somebody is not doing what is right, you must find out exactly what is happening, and then you can apply sanctions, the appropriate sanctions to the companies that have flouted the rules. Well, the SEC has that power. If you infringe the law, there are sanctions are there. Suspension is one, and revocation of your license is also one. So depending on the gravity of the offense, they will decide either to suspend you and when you have been able to repair the damage, maybe let you go back to operate. But if they think that the problem is like that your license has to be revoked, the law gives the SEC the power to do that.
And for you, are you in support of this?
Well, if that is the punishment they have to give you, yes, they must apply the right punishment. The appropriate sanctions might be applied.
This is on the marketplace. Now, accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers says workers of the defunct UT and Capital banks may be paid their severance packages. The accounting firm was last year appointed by the central bank to oversee the liquidation of 2 banks. Workers of the 2 institutions are working to petition President Akufo-Addo to deal with the issue. Pricewaterhouse has started selling off assets of the 2 banks to help pay off creditors, but senior country partner Vish Ashagbo says the payment will be done conditionally.
Okay, so as I think we've discussed before, the key phase of this receivership is the recoveries, which is where we are. We have started with, in quotes, low-hanging fruit, movable assets and things that can be more easily disposed of to recover some monies. The crux of the matter really, because we're dealing with banks, are the loans and advances. And efforts are ongoing. Some of them we are now having to resort to legal procedures to enforce recovery. In some cases, we've been able to negotiate some agreements with some of the borrowers who will pay the money perhaps over a period of time. There's still a lot of work to be done, I must say, because it's really the loans and advances, and as you can imagine, the banks would not be in receivership if they were not having problems with their loans and advances. Today we're talking about liquidity and solvency. That is the problem that these banks have had. And so to convert what have become illiquid assets into liquid assets will take some time and will take some enforcement measures. So we're still working through that.
How much are you hoping to realize from these assets that you've identified?
It's a difficult question for me to answer still, because we are still in the process of recovery. Let me give you an example of an asset or a loan, for example, that is in default, that is not secured. How much of it we can recover now depends on what we get through the legal process and what we're able to settle on with the borrower. So it's a difficult question to answer at this point. Maybe as we progress a bit further into the receivership, we'll be able to answer that. But currently, we're still in discussions with
the economists will say all other things being equal. When are you hoping to finalize the process so that we know that X amount has been realized, and then we will start dealing with the creditors and all those things?
Yeah, again, that's a difficult question for me to answer, particularly because we're subject to legal processes. As you and I know, legal processes do take time, and there are different stages that you may go through. As much as possible, if we can come to reasonable agreements or settlements, and I'm talking about the recoveries in terms of loans, without going through the legal process, that is what we'll do. But as you can imagine, the real meat of the loans and recoveries will require some legal proceedings, and that will take time, and the legal proceedings is out of all of our hands.
Let's shift the focus now onto the oil and gas sector, and the Minister of Energy, Boakye Agyarko, has inaugurated a 19-member licensing round and negotiation committee to oversee the number of oil blocks that will be put on offer during an upcoming bidding process. According to the Minister, the bidding process for oil blocks is very necessary, especially when Ghana's last oil exploration well was drilled as far back as 2014.
Exploration activity has slowed down since the dawn of the low-price era in 2014. This has been compounded by the boundary dispute between Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire. In fact, the last time an exploration well was drilled in Ghana was in 2014. This state of affairs is not acceptable to a country like Ghana that is desirous of growing the oil and gas industry to provide opportunities for its people. It has therefore become necessary for government to create the environment for accelerating activity through our strategy of aggressive exploration. This is in line with our policy objective of replacing existing reserves before they start declining. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to announce that our preparations for allocating more oil blocks in accordance with the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act, Act 919, has been put in motion. 1. A regulatory framework to govern the licensing process has been submitted to the Attorney General's Department for drafting, which will be laid in Parliament to mature into a legislative instrument. 2. The Ghana Model Petroleum Agreement is being reviewed to align it with the Petroleum Exploration and Production Act, Act 919, and the new regulations. 3. Government is also developing for the first time a model joint operating agreement to guide investors on the acceptable norms of joint ventures.
The Energy Minister has also been commenting on the issue of ensuring local content is embedded in the bidding process. He tells Joy Business local tenders will be considered only if they meet the requirements in the process. The 19-member committee has been divided into 3 subcommittees, with Lawrence Apalse being Chief Director.
It's an open, competitive bid. If there are Ghanaian companies who want to bid to become license holders and operators, and they qualify, that's the operative word. Everybody must meet a qualification criteria in order to be considered. We don't want the situation where people are allocated blocks and they sit on it, warehouse it, hoping for it to become prospective, and then they flip it. We want companies that have the resources, the technology, the financial muscle to actually work the field that is allocated to them. We are in a hurry to get resources flowing into the state coffers. So be they Ghanaian or foreign, they must meet the stringent criteria that we put in place. Having said that, there is a requirement that every license holder has an indigenous Ghanaian company as partner who will hold a 5% commercial interest.
Moving now to the downstream sector of the petroleum industry, and Ghana National Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union is appalled by what they describe as a lack of interest by government to address their grievances. The union, among other things, is lamenting the inconsistency associated with delivery of petroleum products, treatment at the hands of oil marketing companies. Now, chairman of the union, George Nyanu, says they are awaiting a response to a letter of ultimatum written by the Energy Ministry to address their issues. We now have George Nyanu on the line to give us an update. Good afternoon, sir. You're welcome to the marketplace.
Good afternoon.
All right, so could you briefly take us through, the problems you're encountering before giving this ultimatum?
Yeah, thank you so much. I would like to use this opportunity to say good afternoon to your listeners, especially Honorable Lord Comey at Blaster House, who has done a very good job for us, putting our challenges before him, waking up quickly to address the issue. Yes, thank you. It is true we have a challenge, which, clearly speaking, we intend advising ourselves tomorrow if we did not hear any response from the authorities. But as I speak to you now, they turn up quickly, respond to the challenges, call us for an emergency meeting yesterday, 3 days today and yesterday, which they solved the problem, going back, giving us a letter, telling us, or in the letter I have with me, that the procedure from Energy Commission, which guide loading and discharging, should be used by all the stakeholders. Okay. And I think that is all that we want.
Now, George, one of your major concerns was the fact that there was a kind of a lack of reconciliation from the pickup points, at Bost, and the
lack of
reconciliation within the figures. I mean, the amount of oil picked up from Bost or any gantry and the discharge point. How do you hope this can be overcome after tomorrow's meeting?
Yeah, no. If I get you right, that like the product that we pick from the loading gantry,
exactly,
to the discharging side,
yes,
is what?
That was one of the major challenge that
yes,
your members.
That's what I'm saying. There's a procedure from Energy Commission that before you load a tanker, there's a measurement on the tanker before you load. After loading, you record the loading fingers on the invoice before the driver sets off.
Okay.
Yes, so when you get to the destination, the receiver over there, whoever, should use the same method to offload the product, which for some years now, some of the OMCs are not using the method. For the loading procedure, they use it, but at the discharging side, they don't use it.
All right.
And that is the challenge that we are facing. So they rather use their underground tanks, which are buried under the ground, which nobody have access to it.
Okay. All right.
They rather believe that one than the trucks, the moving trucks.
All right. So I believe you'll be having your press conference tomorrow. We'll link up with you to get updates of this particular development. Thank you very much for your time. George Nwadu is the General Secretary of the Ghana National Petroleum Tanker Drivers Union. Away from that, the Crops Research Institute is urging government to adopt its newly released rice varieties for the Planting for Food and Jobs program. A research scientist, Dr. Paul Kofi-Date, says these varieties are high-yielding, disease-resistant, and of high nutritional value. He was speaking at a two-day workshop organized by the Korea-Africa Food and Agric Cooperation Initiative, dubbed Enhancement of National Agric Extension Services Phase 2.
It's estimated the nation imports rice in excess of $300 million annually. Dr. Date said it was important to encourage Ghanaians to plant and eat locally produced high-quality rice. Dr. Date, presenting an overview of the project, said it had established 3 demonstration fields in 3 districts, namely KJB, Diakoye, and Hohoe. He believes it is the surest way to achieve food security and boost farmers' income.
We have developed improved aromatic upland rice varieties that are probably the best on the continent. In Africa, you have one primary aromatic rice variety, Nerika 1, and what we've developed is superior to Nerika 1 when you talk of consumer acceptance. So the project is assisting us to get that rice onto farmers' fields.
The rice varieties were developed under the Korea-Africa Food and Agriculture Cooperation Initiative, KAFASI. It includes agricultural researchers and scientists from Ghana, Gabon, Ethiopia, Malawi, Senegal, and Zimbabwe. Is aimed at disseminating quality rice varieties into the market to reduce rice importation. Dr. Kim Jong-jun is Executive Secretary of the KAFASI. He pledges the South Korean government commitment towards assisting Ghana to improve her agriculture.
The KAFASI is international cooperation initiatives in Korea and Africa. So we would like to give some our experience during the development of our country. So we have a lot of experience in agricultural development, and now Korea
And before we go, Adom FM, in collaboration with Ingenious Africa, is set to roll out a new radio drama series in Accra, woven around the operations of a business advisory. It is dubbed Solutions. At 5:30 p.m. it will be launched. Now, this program will help entrepreneurs understand the negative and positive experiences businesses go through. We'll bring you details of the launch in our subsequent bulletins, especially on Business Live. And on that note, we wrap up the marketplace for today. My name is Emmanuel Apwaji. We are free. Have a good afternoon.